I want to talk about this aspect of it. The money. A lot of people are discussing the money. And before I get into the specifics of money, I want to have a big picture money talk. Because the thing that I find fascinating is the authority with which people speak about the money and what I deem to be unknowns about the money. And people that have the unknowns, they still speak in authority about the money. Like, I know confidently I could speak to you. I probably won't, but I could speak to you in terms of what the Palmer family needs to be spending on groceries. I know how many people we have. I know what our income is. I know what our expenses are. I know what groceries cost. Like, this is what we should spend. We should not spend that much, way too much. We can't really work off of that much, and I'd rather have better food than that. So this is what we should probably spend. I can speak confidently about that. But I also hear LSU fans, and I have these conversations all the time. So, like, it's just, when I say LSU fans, it's not like complete generality. Like, I'm speaking to actual people. And I tell them, well, there are reports that you're looking at $13 million for Lane Kiffin because that's in the range Kirby Smart is. And I hear LSU fans, well, you can't spend $13 million on a coach. Like, then how are you going to pay the players? And I would say, yeah, I think if you spend $4 million on a coach, you'll probably have more in your collective than if you have $13 million. But do you know where the cutoff is, where you can't spend money on players? I don't. Hunt doesn't know. I went on after they fired Brian Kelly and I said, hey, I'm done saying LSU doesn't have any money because every time they need money, they get money. Buy Ogeron out. Done. Hire a new coach, Kelly, $95 million. Hire that staff. Okay, fire the defensive coordinator and the rest of his staff. Done. Hire a new one. Done. Now we got to pay the players. Kelly says we got to buy. Let's go get portal class. Done. Well, that portal class comes in. Kelly, his buyout's massive, can't pay it. Done. Like, I'm just going off what I see. I don't see the couch cushions emptying out. Now, you could maybe point to the fact that Brian Kelly's suing the school because they're trying not to pay the buyout, but, like, I don't know why they're trying to do that. Maybe it's just business and they're trying to save money because saving money is what you're supposed to do. Maybe it's not that they're running out. They're just trying to save. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I don't know. I know LSU continues to make these decisions. I don't know how much money LSU has or who's spending it. So I can't speak too authoritatively about that. I also do know, this is another I know, the rules today are not the same as they was 3 years ago. 3 years ago, you could go to any portal player or any high school player and say, how much do you need? Okay, I have that, done, and write the check and hand it to them. That was the rules allowed for that. They technically said you weren't supposed to use it as a recruiting inducement, but nobody enforced that because you couldn't. So you could pay a quarterback $7 million if you wanted to. Bryce Underwood, who knows what he made? You can pay him $10 million. You got a long snapper you really like, $10 grand, $100 grand, love it. Wide receiver, $1 million, signed. You could pay anybody whatever you wanted then. You can't do that now under the rules. The rules say the clearinghouse has to approve the name, image, and likeness deals these players come across. Now, that does not mean that under-the-table stuff can't happen, but it's not the complete wild, wild west it was 3 years ago. I know that. I don't know how those recruiting conversations are going down. I don't know that. But I know that it's not quite what it was a couple of years ago. You had to front-load this year's class until that deadline came in the summer, and then you had to have everything approved by Deloitte. So, like, it's not the wild, wild west anymore. Stand to reason, now I'm speculating, but speculating from a place of knowing the rules, that's probably calmed down a little bit. Not completely. It's not gone, but it's probably calmed down a little bit, where it was just legal to write checks to anybody who would take them. And you've seen collectives dissolve, literally. Now, there are rules that you can pay high school kids, and you still need funds for that. And I'm not suggesting nobody's paying players. They're paying players. But it's a different system than it was a couple of years ago. And then also you've got the revenue sharing piece. The LSU is toward the top of the sport nationally. They're tied with all the SEC teams. They're toward the top nationally in terms of what they can share revenue-wise with their players. My point being, as I put a bow on this whole deal, like, I don't know how much money LSU has. I don't know how close paying a coach $13 million would be to compromising what you can spend on everything else in the football program. Assistants, players, high school recruits, facilities, buyouts. You've still got to pay Brian Kelly, probably. So I don't know how prohibitive the rest of the spending is if you spend 13 as opposed to spending 8. I know that you have 5 million more, but how prohibitive is it? That matters. And then I keep going back to this point. The coach is the most important thing in college football. The coach is the most important thing. And a winning coach creates more revenue, creates more fan interest, creates more donations, creates that fertile ground of fundraising that you need. And the other thing that I know is that you're not hiring in a vacuum. And I've gotten some buddies that have texted me why don't you hire a coach for $3 million with an escalator based on wins? The governor said this. Well, why don't you just say you get such and such per win? And if you win a national championship, you get $5 million on top of that. Well, that sounds awesome. But you're in a marketplace. So if you're trying to hire a coach and you're trying to do that, and it sounds great. I would much rather not pay people $50 million because they lost too much and I don't want them to coach. That sounds good to me. But you're in a marketplace and you've got to hire them from places. And LSU is not hiring the offensive coordinator from a high school down the street who'd just be thrilled to take the job for $1 million. You're competing with Florida. So if Florida's got her offer on the table for 7 years and $91 million, and you come in and say, hey man, check this out. You win the Natty, we'll give you a $5 million bonus. Now your base salary is $3 million, and we'll give you $1 million every second SEC win. And then if you win the SEC and you get in the playoff, we'll escalate it right here. And then Florida's yeah, I just got the $93 million. You're gonna lose. You're still competing in the marketplace. So all these ideas, I just push back on. I like to work off what I know. I know that LSU's always found the money. I know that the rules have changed a little bit as far as paying players. I know that now some of your roster is being paid by LSU's athletic revenue, which it wasn't last year. I know that you're in a marketplace to hire coaches. And when I work off of those, it's just hard for me to go, well, just do it completely differently. Just hire the young guy who's 41, pay him a base of 4, and then incentivize the whole thing. He's gonna laugh and go take the Penn State job, in my opinion. So I'm a little bit puzzled by the confidence with which LSU fans speak to the money aspect of this. I stand here in front of a microphone with no pride. I'm just I don't know who's cutting these checks or how much money LSU has. And when I feel like we get a Freedom of Information request that suggests that LSU is paying a football coach $3.4 million per year that nobody really knew of until they started the search, then at that point I'll go, oh, that $800,000 a month they're paying Brian Kelly, that's taking up a lot of their pool of money. They can't really spend. They screwed up that contract, and it's really set the football program back. I'll say that if that comes out. I just haven't seen that yet. So I'm not going to work off the assumption that LSU just simply can't function the football program if they sign a coach to a $13 million a year contract. And I'm not going to suggest that there's just no money to pay players if they do it. You've already got $20 million allocated out of the revenue. Then whatever you can drum up in revenue sharing, in NIL, and I know that LSU's brand is pretty powerful and that LSU athletes are able to get NIL deals. And that LSU does have a department that is, with Playfly, that is helping push people to these big deals. I'm not saying I know all the answers. I'm saying I don't. And that I think that LSU understands, like I do with my groceries, where they stand financially. And they're not going to make a decision they simply cannot make financially. And you might look up and say, well, what about Brian Kelly? It seems like they made it work. Until they haven't made it work, I'm working off the assumption that they can. I said it, just that. It's an assumption. That's all the information I've got at this point. Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.